3 principles for daily peace. My name is Edgar Ortega, Handsome Blind Guy. I make videos talking about helping you develop habits and strategies so that you can strengthen your mind so that you can face any obstacle that comes your way, any challenge, any struggle. You can overcome it and come out stronger on the other side, weathering any storm so that you can live to your fullest potential and help other people to do the same. Now, these 3 principles revolve around the idea that we're in a situation that is completely outside of our control. In other words, we're in that moment in life that we cannot control, and no matter how much we get upset, no matter how sad we get, no matter how angry we get about the situation, it's not going to change the situation. So that's the frame in which we're going to deal with these 3 principles for daily peace. Now, the first principle is acceptance. If we come into a situation that we have no control over, no amount of yelling, no amount of anger, no amount of sadness and emotional output is going to change the situation. So it's very important that we start with how we think about the situation, analyze it, understand there's nothing we can do, and no amount of worrying about it is going to help the situation change anything, and certainly not going to make us feel better. So once we understand that, we can begin to put ourselves in the right frame of mind so that we can accept that situation and move on to the second principle. But it's very important that we get to that acceptance stage. Of course, if you understand the stages of grief, the final stage in the 5 stages of grief is acceptance, right? Even when people lose a sense, like myself, I'm legally blind. I have an eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa, but some people lose their hearing or even a limb or something like that, right? There is a sense of loss, and people go through all those stages of grief, the final of which is acceptance. And once we accept our situation for what it is, we can then move on and live a more peaceful life. And we can move on by understanding this principle of acceptance. And all of these 3 principles tie together. Number 2 is reaction or non-reaction. It's important that once we understand that there's nothing we can do about a situation, we got to watch how we react to it, right? And this will tie into the 3rd principle. But what the importance is that we react in a way that's constructive, that's going to help us internally be able to accept the situation. So these kind of all 3 flow together, and they're very important. They're all kind of one principle, but I've split them up into 3 because they're all they kind of flow into each other. Once we accept a situation, it's important that we understand how we react greatly affects how we feel, as well as how other people feel about our reaction, right? And so if we react in a way that's outwardly really calm, right? But inside our thoughts are reeling, we're thinking negative things, we're feeling negative emotions, even though on the outside we seem perfectly cool as a cucumber. That's not what I mean by non-reaction. So the practice is to not react with negative thinking, because that negative thinking will lead to negative emotions and make us feel bad inside. Stress, anxiety is a big thing. A lot of people today are dealing with anxiety. Even though outwardly they may seem okay, even though they're not lashing out emotionally, right? Inside, they might be struggling quite a bit. So it doesn't help if you just you're not bottling it in, right? Not reacting to it, but you are in fact reacting to it if you're reacting to it with negative thinking, negative thoughts, right? And that negative feelings. That's not what I mean by non-reaction. Non-reaction, I mean that the situation does not faze you, right? Because when we do react, say we do react out emotionally in a physical way, either we yell or we're visibly frustrated, it doesn't just frustrate us, it frustrates those around us, right? If we're very stressed, it makes people around us very stressed, right? So we can ask ourselves, does this reaction do something good for me and those around me, right? It's a situation that we can't control, right? We understand, we accept it, and so we're not going to react in a way that doesn't show that we've accepted that situation. So the reactions often are important in showing us where we struggle with this principle. right? The other day, I had trouble with it because I was making my phone, I was trying to get my phone to do something. I rely heavily on the voice commands, and so I use Siri on my Apple iPhone. And sometimes she pretends she doesn't know what I'm saying, right? And so I was asking it to do something and it wasn't doing it. Either it wasn't hearing me, or she would hear something I said, but she would react in a way that's completely not related to what I asked her to do. And so I got real frustrated. I started raising my voice and doing the command over and over again. And my wife noticed, and she's like, geez, you got really upset about that. Yeah, so at that moment I got impatient, right? I was talking to my phone. You know, my phone's not something that's conscious. It's not trying to mess up on purpose. It's just a stupid phone. It's a piece of technology. And I was reacting to that situation in a negative way by raising my voice, repeating the command louder and louder. And it not only made me more stressed, it made my wife a little bit more stressed, right? And so how we react certainly affects those around us. So one, I should have accepted that the phone was simply being dumb and not hearing me correctly, or for whatever reason wasn't working. And how I reacted should have been without that yelling. And even though I was starting to feel it, right, I got to practice the understanding that the situation is not something in my control, and no amount of yelling is going to fix it. And so once we understand that, they kind of tie together. Our reactions and acceptance kind of come together. So if we practice reacting in a way that's analytical, right? Okay, this is something I can't control. It's just acting that way. No need to get upset about it. If I do, it's not going to help the situation. Then we can move on from there and practice in a proper way. And so acceptance, principle number one, reaction. Pay attention to your reactions because they'll teach you where your flaws are, okay? Number three is practice. Now, of course, we need to practice acceptance. We need to practice non-reaction, not only with our thoughts, but also with our outward reactions, but also understand that in practice also means that when we practice something, it reinforces or strengthens the habit, right, that we have a habit of doing. For example, in martial arts, if you want to learn a technique, you got to practice that over and over and over again, right, until you get quite proficient at it. Playing an instrument, you do drills until you become proficient at it. Just like in these thought habits, it takes time to develop them. But that's not exactly what I mean by practice in this principle. Understand that every time you react negatively, you are reinforcing that all the thoughts and emotions behind it. And so next time you get in a similar situation, what is it that you've practiced? You've practiced reacting out emotionally, right? And so even if it's a negative habit, even if it's a bad habit that does not give us peace, right? We are practicing it when we react. And so this is the principle of practice, understanding not only can we practice good things to develop good habits, but every time that we react, that we lash out, that we react emotionally, that we don't accept the situation for what it is, that's practice too. It's just like doing a rep in a wrong way. Some of you might do CrossFit, right? You got to lift weights, or some do bodybuilding. If you lift weights in a habit that's not correct, you can hurt yourself, right? But if you continue to practice that, you're going to get in that bad habit, right, of practicing in a wrong way. So it doesn't matter if you're practicing the right way or the wrong way, be it with your thought habits or your emotional reactions or your ability to accept situations, you are reinforcing that situation. So understand that each time you react emotionally, it's like doing a rep, right? And so you're practicing a negative habit. So a lot of times, like say you want to stop cursing or swearing for some reason, whatever it is you want to stop doing, every time like you stub your toe and you swear, you're reinforcing that habit. It's practice, right? And so you want to get in the habit of right practice. And so if you stub your toe, analyze the situation, and then understand what you're trying to do to reach a goal. Maybe you don't want to swear as much or whatever it is. And then non-reaction, right? We still feel, we breathe through it. Breathing's important when we get through these difficult situations to get to the point of non-reaction, and eventually it becomes easier and easier and easier. So be able to accept the situation for what it is. Practice non-reaction, and when you do react, take note of it, and you'll know where your flaws are. Because you don't have that inner peace at that time when you react, right? And those around you aren't going to have peace if you're reacting emotionally in that way, right? So it's important to practice that. And 3, understanding the idea of practice. Even when I'm practicing something negative, it is being reinforced because my brain is doing a rep, just like lifting those weights wrong, right? Eventually you're going to get hurt. So it's important to practice lifting those weights in a proper way that's going to lessen the chances that we're going to get injured. And so in the same way, when a situation comes along, we practice that non-reactance, we practice that acceptance, and we practice the good habits that we want to develop, okay? So when situations come along, they're outside of our control, we learn to accept them, we try not to react to them, and we understand that each time we practice that, we're reinforcing a good habit. Each time we react in a wrong way, we're also reinforcing that. So we want to stop practicing the bad things and start practicing the things that'll give us that daily peace every single day when situations come along that we have no control over. Acceptance, non-reaction, and we understand the principle of practice. One of my favorite movies of all time is the movie Office Space. And in the movie, the boss, the manager of the employees, they put up this banner in the work area with all the cubicles. It's kind of this ridiculous banner that says, "Is this good for the company?" And as ridiculous as that was, as funny as that was, it's in order to help the employees understand or to see that their time, what they're doing with their time, is efficient for the company. So they see the sign, "Is this good for the company?" And it's supposed to help them use their time a little wiser, so make decisions that are good for the company. And so you guys have to make decisions that are good for you, right? You are the company. And so every time that you react in a negative way to a seemingly hopeless situation, or a situation that is hopeless in that sense, you are practicing, right? So our thoughts and our feelings and the way we react to things are what is going to be either good or bad for ourselves. What's good for the company, right? We are the company. And so it's important that we start with our thoughts. Our thoughts are the most important thing. When it comes to acceptance, it's all thoughts. And when it comes to non-reaction, right, that's remembering what we're trying to practice and putting it into practice. Each time it gets easier and easier and easier, and we want to stop practicing those bad reactions that we have. So beware, let those reactions happen. When they do, take note of them, and then you can try to fix them. And then you can have more peace throughout each day. The better you get at this, the more reps you do, the more drills you do, for the good, to develop good habits, you're more likely to be able to deal with these situations and have more peace in your everyday life. Those are the 3 principles. I hope that's been helpful. If this video has been helpful, be sure to share it, give this video a thumbs up, and leave any questions or comments in the comments section. And of course, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. It helps YouTube get positive messages out to people. That's much needed in today's time where it seems negativity abounds, right? But we want to get positive messages out there. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, interact, and share this video. It's really helpful. I'll see you in the next video. Once again, I'm Edgar Ortega, Handsome Blind Guy, and I hope to see you, or you'll see me rather, in the next video. I'll talk to you then.